Leave us alone.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father?
Ewan, lovely to chat to you.
You too, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. So, first of all, how does it feel to be bringing Obi Wan Kenobi to the small screen?
It doesn't feel any different than bringing him to the big screen, you know? It was shot very much like a movie. Deborah Chow is our director of all the episodes, so in many respects it just felt like making a long movie, you know. I didn't feel any different about it. It didn't change the actual playing of him, or it just gave us longer to tell the story, really, which is cool. It was great to play him again. I really, really liked it. I mean, I couldn't have imagined it would have been so satisfying to play him again, and it really was great. I think partly because of the new technology, and you know, in the episode 2 and 3 back in 2000 and 2003, we spent a lot of time in just totally blue screen sets and green screen sets, and it's hard to try and, you know, in episode 2, I go off on my own for a while and I have all these scenes with these aliens with big long necks, and I was just acting with a tennis ball and a stick for weeks and weeks. It's pretty hard work to do that, you know, and make it feel realistic. But here we were now with this huge LCD screen called the Stagecraft is the name of the thing, and it's like this massive screen that goes over your head. It's like a dome, and they play all the backgrounds on that thing, and so wherever you are, you know, they can create worlds that you couldn't ever build a set for, and yet you're surrounded by it, and the perspective changes with the camera and everything. It's really amazing. So that made it a different experience, and it was great fun.
And you first played the role, what, in 1999. From that point on, did playing Obi Wan Kenobi change your life in any way?
It was the first huge sort of the only real big franchise I've ever been part of, and just part of the legend. You know, my Uncle Dennis had been in the first 3 as he played Wedge Antilles in the first 3 movies in the 70s. And me and my brother, I remember Mum and Dad picking us up from school, and I can't remember, they took us to the big city to watch it on the big screen. I don't know if it was Perth or Edinburgh or Glasgow, but I can't remember because I was only 5 or 6. But we went to the big city from Crieff, you know, and we went to see my uncle in a film, which was sort of as exciting as anything had ever been before. But then it was also Star Wars, which just sort of blew our minds apart. And those films became so important to us that to then get a chance to go into them as an actor myself and to play the younger Alec Guinness, you know, it's all quite too much to imagine, really.
And when you play Obi-Wan, is he Scottish in any way? Is that in your mind when you're playing the role?
No, I've got to just make him feel like Obi-Wan, like Alec Guinness. I'm thinking of Alec, you know, and I try and sound. I don't try and do an impersonation of Alec Guinness, but I try and make it, because when I played the first one, I was in my mid-20s, I was 20-something. And, you know, Alec must have been in his late 60s when he played Obi Wan Kenobi, but I had to make them, he had to be him at the end of the day, so I had to sound like him, and I have to hear Alec Guinness in my head, and it wasn't very Scottish Alec Guinness.
Very quickly, you know, going back to being at Kirkcaldy Tech, back at being in Crieff, if you told young Ewan that you were going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, what would you have said to yourself?
I couldn't have imagined it. I mean, all I wanted to do was just to be an actor like my uncle. Since I was 9, that's all I wanted to do, and I sort of believed it so much that it's happened. You know, I just didn't have any other ideas. I didn't have any other options, but. It's due to my mum and dad, you know, like recognizing that and supporting it, and not telling me not to be, oh, don't be silly, you know. And it's also down to my uncle who'd done it, you know. He was an actor. He'd made it. He came from Crieff and he made it work, you know. And so he'd already done the difficult bit, which was believing that he could do it and doing it, and I sort of followed, luckily, in his footsteps. But it's down to my mum and dad for supporting me and, you know, letting me leave school early, and going to Kirkcaldy when I was 16 to do that theatre arts course there in Kirkcaldy Tech, which changed my life, really, and then going to drama school in London thereafter. But I've got a lot to be thankful for in terms of my mum and dad, that's for sure.